If you only had 3 years left on this planet, what would change for you? You absolutely knew without a shadow of a doubt that you had exactly 3 years from today to live. What would change? Would you keep drinking the way that you are? Would you stay checked out in the marriage that you're not happy in? Would you keep putting off the hard conversations, the resentment that you have not yet resolved with someone? Or how about the real work of becoming who you're supposed to be? Would anything shift for you? I sure hope so. Because today, the question is, what are you doing with the time that you have? Because whether it's 3 years or 30, it's shorter than you think. And the clock is ticking faster than any of us realize. So this episode today is going to be a bit different. It is episode number 12. And there's a reason why I saved it for episode 12. Because this is not about motivation today. This is about waking up before it's too late. Welcome to Beyond the Gray, the podcast about gray area drinking and how it impacts your health, relationships, purpose, and faith. This is where we have real conversations about the topics successful men over 50 don't usually talk about out loud. If you've built a great life but keep asking, is this it? You're not alone. When alcohol becomes your go-to off switch and your marriage, health, or purpose feel disconnected, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kari Schwear, and this, my friend, is where the gray ends. Welcome back to Beyond the Gray. I'm your host, Kari Schwear, and if you're new here, this podcast is for men and women who've built successful lives but cannot shake this feeling that something is missing. We talk about all gray areas here. Sometimes that shows up as gray area drinking. Sometimes it's in a marriage that can feel distant. It could feel like your faith is on autopilot, or maybe your health is starting to slip a little bit. Somewhere underneath it all, there's usually a deeper question of, is this all there is? So today we're talking about time and urgency and what happens when you finally stop living like you're invincible. Because that is reality. And on this show, we talk about things that aren't exactly easy to talk about or hear, but they are necessary. And I know that this episode will bless you immensely if you stay all the way to the end. Because you know what? A lot of people don't want to face the facts. They just don't. We're not 30 years old anymore. We can't recover from a weekend of drinking like we used to. Our bodies don't bounce back from stress the way that they once did. And the clock is moving faster than it ever has before. And you can feel it. I know you can. There comes a moment in every person's life where the math begins to change. You stop thinking I'm building towards something and you start realizing that I'm spending down the time that I have left. And this isn't in a morbid way, okay? This is a clarifying way. Because once you accept that time is finite, you're going to stop wasting it. And that's what today is about. So whether you're 50, 55, or 60 or older, or maybe you're in your 40s and you're listening, I'm glad that you're here. Because if you've had a health scare or you just watched a good friend die way too young, that just happened with me. We just lost a friend of ours from brain cancer, way too young. Or maybe it's one day you're just looking in the mirror and you realize that you're not the man or the woman that you thought you'd be at this age. Those regrets are starting to kick in a little bit. And it's a realization of, oh my gosh, how much time do I actually have? So what are you doing with the time that you have left? Are you becoming the person that you're supposed to be? Or are you just going through the motions day by day? Have you ever asked, if I died tomorrow, would I be proud of the story that I've lived? Oh my gosh, I think about that so many times, more now than ever. And these are not comfortable questions, but they're the right questions. So avoiding them isn't going to make them go away. It just makes you wake up at 60 or 65 and realize that you're running out of time to answer them. And I don't want that for you. I want to start off by saying that, speaking of conversations, I had one today with a new acquaintance. is a guy I met on LinkedIn, and we decided to have a connection call, which I love doing, by the way. So if you ever want to connect with me, please let's connect on LinkedIn and let's schedule some time to meet, because I love meeting people. And he shared with me quite a bit. He's 44 years old, very successful, married, happily married, has 2 young boys at home, 5 and 8. And as we were talking, I was telling him about this episode that I'm going to be recording today. And then he shared with me a fact that every male in his family, his grandfather, his father, his uncles, all died in their 70s, which means that if the pattern holds for him, he's got maybe 25 to 30 years left. And when he did the math, he realized that his kids will be in their 30s when he passes, that they won't have a dad for most of their adult lives. That realization was a bit of a shake. And I can see why, because when you got young kids at home or adult children and you have grandchildren now, you realize how important our time is, especially with family. I want to share something that happened this past fall. I hosted another one of my client retreats, and we do some very deep work at these retreats. It was about 4 days long. They came in on a Wednesday night and left Sunday mid-morning, and it was a group of men and women, business owners, executives. They're all high achievers, and even though they got their act together for the most part, we all have some sort of gray areas that we can be working on the inside. On the very first night that they showed up, I gave them what felt like an impossible task. Now, I have an arc built into my retreats where every day, every exercise starts to build, and then we have a result at the end of that. So I asked them right out of the gate that night, imagine you only have 3 years left to live. Now, I asked them this question not to scare them, just like I asked you, but to help clarify them. Because if you really had only 3 years left to live, what would need to change? And here's how I broke it down for them into 3 questions. The first question was, what do you need to surrender? Now, let me stop there and just say that the idea here was for them not to answer it on this first night. The idea was to take the several days that we were together, those 3.5, 4 days, and build to get the answer to these questions. And the same thing goes for you. So as I read this, and as we go through this exercise together, I want you to write them down if you can, and start to think how you can put all this together for yourself, okay? So the first question, like I said, is what do you need to surrender? This isn't what to give up on, okay? This is surrender. What do you need to let go of that you've been carrying way too long? There's a big difference here. And a lot of this can look like habits that no longer serve you, the drinking that's become your go-to off switch. Maybe it's stress eating, or the constant busyness that you have, or the scrolling just to numb out. Oh my gosh, I've been guilty of that too. Or the way that you avoid the hard conversations because it's easier to stay surface level. So when I say surrender, I'm talking about letting go of control. We always want to have control, especially guys. We feel like, well, I say we, I'm not a man, of course, but men have a hard time of letting go of control. Unless you're a woman that's a control freak. I might be one of them. So it's this belief that you can figure everything out on your own. I'm going to share now that you don't need help. You need God on your side. And if that makes you a little uncomfortable, I'm sorry, but it is true that we are asked to surrender everything to Him, that His work in you is going to help you figure all this out. So when we get to a point, we talked about this in episode 7. If you haven't heard that one, go back and listen to it, that we need to learn to put things down, that we don't have to carry it all ourselves. Maybe it's a relationship, and this one is true for a lot of people, right, that aren't working anymore. So I'm not really talking about your marriage unless it's super toxic. That's a different story. But if you are someone who's in a marriage, a gray area marriage, again, episodes 4 and 8, Rob and I talk about our marriage. We share a lot of our truth in there. And if you are in a gray area marriage, what do you need to surrender, let go of some of the lighter stuff or the not so important things to let that go? How about the friendships that you've outgrown? That's another big one. Maybe you're still hanging out with your college buddies that still drink like fish and party guys or fraternity brothers. Why? Like maybe you've outgrown them and it's time to let that go. Or the guys that you keep around out of loyalty or obligation, but they stopped adding value into your life years ago. The people who drain you instead of building you up. Can I tell you that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with? So if it's not working anymore, you got to let it go. Surrendering the things that take up space in your life, but are not adding to it. It is the hardest part, but it's also so liberating when you get to that place. Because once you let go of what's not working, you make room for what is working. And that is really exciting. So from the retreat, one guy said, I need to surrender the belief that I can keep doing things the way that I'm doing them. And it wasn't working for him and his family in that time. So we all have something that we could be working on. So what would you need to surrender if you only had 3 years left? Question number 2 that I gave them is what you need to accomplish. And I don't mean your to-do list here, okay? I mean what actually matters, the important things. What would you regret not doing in your time left? Not finish the quarterly report or hit the revenue goals. I'm talking about the things that matter to your soul, not your calendar. Maybe it's a trip that you've been saying you're going to take someday. That trip to Italy with your wife, the fishing trip with your son, the bucket list adventure you keep putting off. Or maybe it's mending a relationship. This is a big one. The conversation with your dad that you've been avoiding, the apology that you owe someone, the reconciliation that's been sitting unfinished for years. Can I tell you that is one of the biggest things that I'm going to really encourage you to do is to look at the people in your life that you still have something unsettled with and get that ironed out, because you don't want to go through life and have any regrets at all. And that's one of the biggest ones that I see. Maybe it's starting something or finishing something that you've been wanting to do. Maybe it's writing a book. Maybe it's starting the foundation that you wanted to start and you never did, or building the legacy project that you've been thinking about, or teaching your kids or grandkids something that only you can teach them. The things that would make you say on your deathbed, I am so glad that I did that. Not, I'm glad I worked 80 hours a week. Not, I made partner at the firm. Things that matter beyond your career here, okay? These are really, really important things. Question number 3, who do you need to become? All right, this one's a big gulp because it's not about what you need to do. We just talked about that. It's who do you need to be? You can surrender the habits that aren't working. You can take the trips that we just mentioned. You can check all the boxes and still not become the man or woman that God has created you to be. The point isn't just doing. It's about becoming. Who is the man or woman that you're supposed to be? Not who you've settled for, not who you've been pretending to be. The man or woman that God has actually designed you to become. I don't know if you know Ed Milet or if you follow him. I've been following him for years. And he said something once on an interview that stuck with me all these years. He talked about standing in front of God one day when he dies. And he said he wants to be the identical twin to the person that God has created him to be. Not close, not pretty good, identical. No shortcuts, no compromises, no, I'll get to that later. That's the standard. It's not perfection, it's alignment. Not performance, but authenticity. Not pretending, but becoming. All of these questions come down to one thing, and this was my ask of my clients on this retreat. If you only had 3 years left, who do you need to become? What do you need to surrender? And what do you need to do to accomplish in order to hear, well done, good and faithful servant? 3 years feels pretty abstract. It's far enough away where it doesn't feel urgent. I get it. And you can tell yourself that you still got time and you can keep putting things off. But here's the truth, my friend. We don't know how much time we actually have. None of us do. Maybe not 3 years, not 30. You could have more, you could have less. We don't get to know, unfortunately. Or maybe, fortunately, we don't get to know. And that's not meant to be morbid. It's meant to wake you up. Because the older you get, the faster time moves. I've watched this happen to me in real time. Here we are in April. It is April when I'm recording this. Now, this probably won't go out till the beginning of May. I can't believe how fast time is flying. It's not slowing down. The clock just keeps moving forward. So every day that you delay is a day that you don't get back. So my question for you is this. Are you serious about this? Are you serious about your life? Are you just going to listen to this episode, feel motivated for 20 minutes, and then go back to the same patterns? This is about making a decision to stop living like you have unlimited time, a decision to stop thinking that you're invincible, a decision to actually become who you were created to be. And if you're not ready to make that decision, that's cool. No worries. But I don't want you to go back to your regularly scheduled life and keep drinking more than you want and keep avoiding the hard conversations or pretending everything is fine. Where's that going to get you? But listen, if you are ready, if you're actually willing to look at what you need to do to surrender, accomplish, and become, then keep listening. Because that's what this work is about. It starts today, not tomorrow. Here's what I'm going to share is that we all have 4 core areas of our life. Our body, which is our health and our energy and our physical state. Our being, which is our connection to God, our spiritual health, your inner world. And balance, which is your relationships, primarily your marriage, but it could be a partner, and then your family and friends and so forth. And then your business, which of course is your work, your purpose, your legacy, which is kind of what we're talking about here today, right? It's your legacy. So how we show up in all these things is important. Our health is going to impact how we feel and our energy levels and how we can move forward. Our faith. If we don't have some sort of faith, and if you don't believe in God, well, I encourage you to maybe look into doing that. We're getting to a place in society and our world that is going to be very important that you get really clear with what you believe in. And I pray that that is God. I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe he's the Lord and Savior. He's my Lord and Savior. And without him, I am nothing. I encourage you to lean into learning more and finding out what is important for you. It's an invitation. So gray area faith is a crazy place to be. And if there's one gray area that I would encourage you to work on, it's your faith. Maybe also in your business world, maybe you have some areas there that you're not sure about. And again, maybe it's that you want to do something so important with your life that you haven't had the opportunity to do yet, that you wanted to build, or you wanted to impact a specific charity, or you wanted to volunteer. You're not going to be able to do those things if any of these core 4 areas are off. So here's my invitation for you. I have something called the Gray Area Insights Experience, where we go through these core 4 areas. And if you're not ready to get on a call with me, hey, that's okay too. There's a quick audit that you can do on my website. I'll put the download in the link below, and you can go through that. It will give you some insights on where your gray areas really are lying in this moment. Because my friend, I don't want you to be in that place where you're living a gray area life and you're missing out on the time that you do have left. Now, I mentioned earlier about the retreats, and I will be planning one in the fall of 2026, so around November. These are not motivational seminars. They're not a bunch of rah-rah speeches. This is deep work that we do at these retreats. Every exercise, every conversation, every moment is planned out and intentional. We do breath work, conscious connected breath work, which is something I'm trained in doing that unlocks things that you've been carrying for years. We have real conversations, the kinds that you don't have just anywhere else. We build an arc from where you are to where you want to go. And the goal isn't to feel motivated for a weekend and then go home unchanged. The goal is lasting transformation, the kind that shifts how you show up in your marriage, your business, and your life. And the men and women who come to these retreats, here's what they tell me afterwards. I finally feel like I have clarity. I can stop pretending and really feel like I can be me again and be honest. And somebody else said, I didn't know how much I needed this until I was here. And that 3-year experience that I told you about that I did with them on this past one, that's just one piece. But it's the piece that wakes people up. Because once you face the reality of finite time, you stop wasting it. If you're interested in the upcoming November retreat, do yourself a favor. Send me a message, connect with me on LinkedIn, go to my website. You can email me at hello@graytonic.com and let me know, because it is for those that are serious about becoming who you're supposed to be. And it's very limited in the number of people that I can have at these retreats. So if you're interested, shoot me a message. I hope that this wasn't just another podcast episode for you today, that it truly was a wake-up call for you, and that you get to decide what you do with it. As always, the gray areas, it's a choice, and that choice is yours. But my friend, the clock is ticking. It's not slowing down for me, for you, for anyone. So stop waiting, stop putting it off, stop telling yourself that you're going to deal with it later, because later might not come. If this episode hit you, please do me a favor and yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and follow the show so you don't miss any future episodes, because there truly is life beyond the gray, but you have to be willing to fight for it. Thank you for being here. I'm Kari, and this is Beyond the Gray. I'll see you in the next episode.